The Quincy Blood War is a war that takes place between the Gotei 13 and the Wandenreich. Within the Shinigami Research and Development Institute, the 12th Division discovers that hollows are being destroyed without a trace in large groups, causing Mayuri Kurotsuchi to note that only one group could achieve this. Meanwhile, Ryunosuke Yuki and Shino are assigned as the new Shinigami Guardians of Karakura Town. However, when the two Shinigami are attacked and badly injured by large hollows, Ichigo Kurosaki and his friends save them. 2 days later, after taking a bath in the human world, Hayori Sarugaki notices a strange fissure in the air nearby and wonders what it is. At the Kurosaki clinic, Ichigo and his friends gather to eat bread from Orihime Ino's new job with a recovering Yuki, who recalls what happened during his first mission 2 nights ago, before reuniting with Shino. As Kaku Madaraim and Yumichika Ayasegawa move to investigate a series of strange disappearances in Soul Society's Rukongai, a strange man suddenly appears on Ichigo's bed and introduces himself as Asgyarbo Eburn, prompting Ichigo to demand that he get off immediately. When Eburn refuses to get off his bed, Ichigo kicks him through the window and decides to deal with him outside as he exits in his Shinigami form. After convincing Eburn to follow him elsewhere, Ichigo asks him if he is an Arankar, only for an injured Eburn to summon a spirit weapon. Meanwhile, in Soul Society, Ikkaku and Yumichika continue to investigate the disappearance of Rukongai denizens and eventually conclude that the villagers were kidnapped by each other. In the 1st Division barracks, as Yamamoto is being given a report from the other divisions, he is confronted by several masked men who reveal that they have come to declare war. As he fends off Eburn's attacks, Ichigo wonders why Eburn is using a Quincy cross and repeatedly provoking him before activating his Bankai, which Eburn responds to by activating a medallion. However, Ichigo dispels the medallion's strange effects and attacks a shocked Eburn. In Soul Society, Chojiro Sasakabe is suddenly impaled in Yamamoto's office by an enormous javelin as one of the masked men declares that the Wandenreich will destroy Soul Society in 5 days. After freeing Chojiro, Yamamoto attacks the masked men as they disappear into shadows and is shocked when Chojiro reveals that the masked men can do something to a Shinigami's Bankai. Meanwhile, in the human world, a badly wounded Eburn frantically wonders, while Ishigo's Bankai will not disappear, prompting Ichigo to decide to bring him back for questioning. However, Eburn disappears within another shadow, which Ichigo notes is not a Garganta. At Silburn, Luders and the other men appear along with Eburn, who begins bickering with Luders. Suddenly, Luders' right arm is blown off by Yhwach, who berates them for arguing in his presence before asking to hear Luders' report. After threatening to blow off Luders' legs if he lies down while speaking to him, Yhwach orders Luders to relay his report. Back in the human world, Ichigo returns to his house while Ryunosuke is ordered to return to Soul Society for Chojiro's funeral. Knowing that Ichigo is present while contacting Ryunosuke, Akon details how a single intruder killed over 100 members of the 1st Division, while 7 more confronted Yamamoto and departed through unknown means. Later, while patrolling Karakura Town, Ichigo is confronted by Neltu, who reveals that something has happened to Hueco Mundo. Meanwhile, as Luders concludes his report, Yhwach kills him for speaking of the future before decapitating Eburn as well. When another masked man asks him if it's logical to kill naturally trained soldiers, Yhwach claims he can find some more Arankar anytime he wants, as he reveals an imprisoned Tyr Haribil, before stating that Hueco Mundo is his territory. As a bewildered Ichigo asks Nell what she means, Peshguatish crashes into the ground nearby with the same message. In Soul Society, Byakuya Katsuki speaks of Chojiro's unwavering dedication and loyalty to Yamamoto, who mourns as his funeral pyre is lit. Back at Ishigo's house, Pesci explains how Harabel ruled Hueco Mundo after Baragan Lozen Baron's death, before she was struck down by mysterious assailants, whom he reveals also took Donbachaka stand. When Seigo says they will help, Uryū reveals that he cannot accompany them as Kisuk Urahara appears with an offer to take them to Hueco Mundo. In the Ice Palace, Jugron Hashwolf realizes that Eberm's medallion could not capture Ishigo's Bankai, prompting Yhwach to order the Jagged Army to round up some more Arrancar. While the group moves through the Dangai, Urahara tells Ishigo that all the recent events connect to one thing as they emerge in the air above Hueco Mundo. After hiding from the nearby Wandenreich forces, Ishigo and his friends discuss the slaughter and routing of the native Arrancar, prompting Ishigo Orbihin and Seido to move out in hopes of saving the prisoners. Elsewhere, as the captured Arrancar are lined up, hunting captain Kulj Opi begins attacking them under the pretense of determining which ones are strong enough to be recruited. When Loli Ivaran and Menoli Malia attempt to hold him hostage, Quilj swiftly incapacitates them and has his men beat them, but is suddenly confronted by the Tres Bestias. As Francesca Myla Rose and Emilua Pakchi begin bickering, Cyan Sun confronts Quilj, and the three begin fighting the Wandenreich, which causes Ichigo and Nell to feel their Ryatsu while approaching the battle. While Nell explains the Tres Bestias and their strength to Ishigo, the Tres Bestias effortlessly slaughter the Wandenreich officers, only stopping when Quilj suddenly kills an officer who requested a withdrawal order. Quilj implores that they surrender so they can serve Yhwach along with their beloved Harabel, but all three unanimously refuse, disappointing him. Meanwhile, in the 1st Division barracks, Akon concludes his report on the invasion to the captains as Mayuri confirms that the invading army is comprised of Quincy's. Upon being told that they have not yet located the Wandenreich's base of operation, Yamamoto orders the captains to prepare for battle immediately. Back in Hueco Mundo, Ishigo and Nell discover that Quilj has defeated the Tres Bestias as Quilj notes their arrival. While the lieutenants wait for the captains' meeting to end, Izuru Kira brings up the disappearances in the Rukongai and confirms his theory that Shinigami were involved because the residents there were too poor to own sandals, which were found among the footprints. Back in Hueco Mundo, Quilj reveals that Ishigo has been classified as a top priority threat by Yhwach and has his men surround Ishigo, who realizes they are using Herenkyaku as the men attack him. As Quilj joins the assault, Yhwach is informed of his engagement with Ishigo in Hueco Mundo, prompting him to order the Stern Ritter to mobilize for the invasion of Soul Society. Meanwhile, in the 1st Division barracks, Mayuri tells Yamamoto that his failure to kill Yhwach 1,000 years ago caused this entire situation. As they are informed of Quilj's skirmish with Ishigo in Hueco Mundo, the Stern Ritter equip themselves and assemble at the Gate of the Sun. Meanwhile, in Hueco Mundo, as his Heilig Fail enter the dust cloud around Ishigo, Quilj notes that all of his rounds is their mark, only to be surprised when Ishigo throws Zangetsu down before revealing that he caught all of Quilj's projectiles, while noting that he thought Quincy's only used bows and arrows. Throwing Quilj's Heilig Fail back at him, Ichigo gives Nell to Origin before countering Quilj's subsequent volley with a Getsuga Tensho. When Quilj admits that he is embarrassed of the power of his Heilig Fail, Ichigo claims that they are far stronger than Uryū's, leading a confused Quilj to note that this is not possible, before musing that he will have much to report to Yhwach after this battle ends. Reminding Ichigo of the ultimate Quincy technique, Quincy, let's still, Quilge reveals a samurai glove, which engulfs him in a pillar of light. As the light shatters to reveal he has taken on a winged form, Quilge reveals the true name of this form to be Quincy. Volstandig as Uryū and the other Arrancar rush toward the battle. Meanwhile, as Shinigami prepare for combat in Soul Society, someone stands in the air above them. With Uryū noting the strange lack of power emitted in his new form, Quilge appears behind Ichigo and proclaims that this is the power of the one who will punish him while attacking. Ichigo recalls Uryū's explanation of the Quincy, let's still, particularly its drawback of complete power loss for the user afterwards, prompting Quilge to reveal that the two are different and far apart in power as he repeatedly attacks Ichigo. However, Ichigo merely claims that he is glad Uryū would never take on such a creepy form before unleashing another Getsuga Tensho on Quilge, who emerges unscathed with Zangetsu stopped by his neck. As Ichigo leaps back, Quilge begins gathering reishi from his surroundings and attempts to attack Ichigo with it, only to be interrupted by an assault from Aeon as the Tres Bestias reveal that they can still fight. As Apache warns Ichigo and his friends that Aeon is powerful but indiscriminate, Quilge claims that Aeon cannot defeat the power of his Quincy, Volstandig, only for Aeon to hit him with a brutal punch. Meanwhile, in Soul Society, Ryunosuke asks Shino why the Shinigami and Quincy are fighting each other if they both want to destroy hollows, prompting Hidetomo Kajamaru to explain how the two differ in their methods of destroying hollows, with the Quincy's endangering the balance of souls by permanently destroying hollows, which eventually lead to their extermination. As Hidetomo claims that wars like this take place because both sides are just, Aeon continues brutalizing Quilge, who is eventually left broken and pounded into the ground. However, as Apache approaches him, Quilge stabs her and declares that he must kill them all. Aeon charges at Quilge, who completely absorb his body with Sclaveray before emerging in a grotesque new form. Grabbing Apache, Myla Rose and Sung Sun reach Orihime and Seido before concealing themselves with Muda. Sung Sun explains that they will be moving to Ichigo's location because they are no match for Quilge right now. However, Quilge merely absorbs the barrier itself and begins tearing apart those within while telling them to die quickly. Suddenly, his Hyligen shine is destroyed by a Getsuga Tensho from Ichigo, who attacks him with his Bankai activated. Meanwhile, in Soul Society, Hidetomo details how the Shinigami will know when the Wandenreich invade one of the four gates, but Yhwach appears above them as pillars of reishi erupt throughout the Seireitei. If you liked this video, please comment and subscribe to the channel.